My name is Stuart Evans. I am a director of animated TV and films. I worked for 5 years at Animation on 3 Steven Spielberg animated features, and I've spent the last 32 years perfecting my craft. The biggest thing I've directed was 104 episodes and a feature of Bob the Builder. I currently work at Moonbug Entertainment. I'm titled a Senior Animation Creative. It was going to an animation studio and seeing how much fun they were having. That was the main thing, that they were having fun in a small room with 3 people, drawing cartoons for a living, drinking lots of coffee, reading comics, and having a laugh. It was that moment when I walked into that animation studio and I thought, this is what I've been looking for all these years, because I was on a graphics course. I always loved to draw, and there wasn't enough drawing in that, and I just didn't actually realize, strangely, that animation was a career that I could pursue. So once I walked into that studio, I thought, okay, this is the career that I've been looking for. Inspiration day to day could be anything. It could be seeing someone walking down a road. It could be something that one of my 3 cats do that's strange. It could be film, television. It's everywhere. There's material absolutely everywhere. It could be a stupid voice that I've put on. It could be anything. Absolutely anything and everything should be an inspiration. It depends what the project is, and what my role is. If my role is, as it's been for the past 20 years as director, it's right from the very start. So I get an idea and I help develop that, and then way down the line, after scripts and designs, then we get into the actual animation process. But it can be a long and drawn out creation. That's how it works, actually, for me, for the past 20 years. It's the biggest team of animators that I've worked with was on the features at Amblin, and there are about 250 animators working in the same room, same very huge room. And it's inspiring because you get to see some real geniuses. It's really inspirational to see people who are absolutely at the top of their game working on stuff, and you pick up the inspiration from them and you go, okay, I will learn from this, I will learn from them. And it's great. Everyone brings something different, and you can always learn from everyone. Storyboarding is a key element because that is the first visualization of the story, of the script, and that's what really leads the approach, because you have the staging, you have the dynamics, you have all the acting that are going to be in the final animation. So all the posing, all the acting, all the staging have to be there in the storyboarding stage, so that all the other sections can just sort of slot into place. But that's the basis for everything. Creating a storyboard, I'm given a script, and usually, hopefully, a brief from the director, or if I'm doing it myself, I just tell myself what to do. So you look at the script, you look at past episodes, if there are any, so you know how the characters are going to act, how they're going to speak. All the backgrounds you get, so you get all the reference you could possibly need in terms of the designs for the characters, backgrounds, the props, everything. And you interpret that script in the way that it needs to be interpreted, and you just bring your filmic knowledge and you just apply everything. If you've been given specific instructions, you follow those, like for specific shots, but you just have to sort of bring everything that you've learned up to that point into the storyboard, and you create it from there. You just draw continuously for the next 4 weeks. In terms of work ethic, hopefully my work ethic has just increased and got better through the years. And also it's a discipline thing. From work, as I said before, from working on films to working on episodes. House of Rock was the super fast pace when I was literally drawing with a Sharpie on animation paper and then just handing it to someone else to scan in. So that was super fast. But really, it's the speed that you have to work to, and also adapting your style. So any good animator, as a 2D animator and then storyboard artist, you have to be able to adapt your style of drawing to whatever you need to do. So you have to make that work. It increases your adaptability, and then suddenly after a few years you go, wow, I can draw in any style, just bring it on. So when people say, can you do that? Yes, I can do anything. Voice acting, well, especially with storyboards, how soon it comes in. If you're working on a feature, there are times when you just have to get the voice talent in first, and then a lot of the design and especially the acting is based on the mannerisms of that particular actor. If they're a good voice actor, they won't just stand there and just sit down and just say the lines. They'll be getting up, they'll be emoting. So a lot of the time, especially on a feature, the voice actors are filmed for the expressions, for the gestures, for the timing. So they're absolutely integral to the overall performance.
Yeah, that's so funny. I don't have a skull or bones. Not sure what Elsa was going for when she built me. Hey guys! That was a long minute, huh? Hi, I'm Olaf and I like warm hugs. You built me, you remember that?
And you're alive?
Am I?
The director has an idea of how they want a particular character to act. It will be reflected in their design, whether they're very angular for a sly, sneaky character, or they're just a bit rounder for just a feeling of sort of well-being and jolliness. So they'll have sort of quite soft animation, whereas the sharper design character will be sort of all angles. So the design, in conjunction with the voice artist as well, leads the whole character. So it's a combination of many things, but usually the character is reflected in their overall design.
As much as you did.
Thanks. Jenna, let's go celebrate. I know where all the bones are buried.
I don't know, Steele. Suddenly I've lost my appetite.
Oh. Well, maybe your taste runs more toward wolf.
Jenna, come on, girl. We're going back home.
Sorry, Steele. My girl is calling.
The character of Jenna was supposed to be very classy dork. When you start animating, it's always good if you have some kind of reference, what you can base the character on. It just makes it easier. And I've been looking through a lot of photographs to kind of have an idea for expressions, and then I stumbled on some pictures of Audrey Hepburn, who had these beautiful eyebrows, and the eyes just really, stick out, the main feature.
From working on films, because I had about a year, when I first started my career, I had about a year of working in a very small commercial studio, of which your father is very familiar, because that's where I met him. And then I had 5.5 years in a film studio working on films, and then subsequently working on commercials. The main difference is the element of time, because when you're working on a film, you've got literally years to get stuff done, and it can be a glacial process, and you are given quite a long time. And sometimes you want to get things done and you work at a certain pace, but in commercials you've got a few days to finish the whole thing. You've got 30 seconds to animate and you've got 2 days to finish it. So it's absolute breakneck. And the same in episodic TV. You haven't got a lot of time. In terms of speed, the fastest I've had to work was being given a script for a 10-minute episode first thing on a Monday morning, and by Friday, 3 of us had to produce an animated 10-minute show. So it's the intensity and the speed. You have to think on the fly and work damn fast when you're working in commercials or TV. Film takes forever. Feels like it takes forever. American Trafalgar Goes West was my first feature, so I was working as not quite the lowest of the low, but I was an in-betweener and assistant animator, sort of one of the people doing the 25 drawings every second. I had to do that and filling in after everyone else. The most important job an animator has is to bring life and character to whatever they're working with. So it's not necessarily got to be the cleanest drawing in the world, as long as you bring life to it. It's bringing the illusion of life.
What a crazy thing to do, just to show off to a pretty girl. I'm sure Jenna would love to have you on our team.
Hey, Rosie, stay away from him!
Dad!
He might bite you, honey. He's part wolf.
When I was animating on all the films, it was 2D animation with a pencil and with pencil sharpener up there and an awful lot of paper. So things that I would do, I would draw it and then they would get scanned into the computer and then painted eventually on the later films. But yes, I was traditionally animating.
We have a process which is called cleanup, where the animation from maybe half a dozen different animators goes through a person called a character lead, who is an assistant who controls the styling of that character.
Well, we work with model sheets for each character, and we construct using like basic shapes of balls and squares, and just build up the character from that, and then it goes on to in-betweeners. As you work on a character, you get to know exactly like where the eyes should be, how large the eyes should be,
construct it,
and the various proportions of the character.
In the position that I was in, I didn't have any influence on story. That was just written. But it did differ in that Balto and his team were a secondary team to the main team who got the vaccine through, and it was adapted to make him the hero as if he was the main team. The fact that all the dogs could talk, that was an adaptation. And really I can see how there were certain elements of it that were added in for drama. There's always like a build up, then oh my god, there's a crashing disappointment, and then you have to build up from that, and there's disaster along the way. All true stories have an element of just there's going to be a time where it's really, really dull. So you just have to build in the drama. Most times they'll say based on a true story. There'll be certain elements of that. Quite a lot of it was true, and that was fine, and the main message of it was true. But all these things do have to be adapted to add extra drama, extra tension, extra heartwarming moments. So there is that adaptation all the way through, but it's necessary. It's an entertainment based on a true story. So I don't think there was never any intention to make it anything other than it was, which was based on a story. Well, I did on Balto than previous films because I was just that much more senior. So I was dealing with the assistant animation and cleanup on all the human characters and a lot of the dogs that weren't huskies, so the character dogs.
Good morning, Jenna. Ought to be a close race, don't you think? Maybe even neck and neck.
Say something about her new collar before she gets whiplash.
Dixie, what a pretty collar. Is it new?
What, this old thing? Yeah. Do you think, Steele will notice?
I'm afraid the only way Steele notices anyone is if they're wearing a mirror.
So I did have to deal with Simon Wells, not on a very regular basis because I would just talk to my animators, but occasionally he would chip in with advice because I know subsequently as a director you have so much going on and you have only a small window of opportunity if anyone wants to speak to you. So I was just a small cog in a very large machine. All my experience with him and with Steve Hickner, because he'd been there all the way through, yeah, they're always very positive, and Simon was very, very creative, but there was always something for him to be doing. So if you got his attention, you had to be absolutely precise in what you wanted to ask him, fill that time, and then go away. There would normally be a queue of people, of about 4 or 5 people waiting to ask him a specific question. So he didn't have a lot of time, but now I know why.
Balto saved the children, and then the children turn around and they save Balto. And all of the filmmakers on Balto are very proud in honoring the symbol of courage and bravery that is Balto.
Experience of working with Steven Spielberg, apart from him coming in and being occupied with the directors and the producers, the only contact I had with him was when they were brought round and they were taken past us, and we went, oh, and and then we didn't see him for dust. He was just sort of ushered past our little corridor. When your role increases and that it becomes a little bit more important, then you'll have more contact with the director because you'll have to take actual direction from them occasionally. Later, when Steven Spielberg came in, when I was working on We're Back, we actually met him on the stairs when me and my friend were going out for lunch, and an exec producer was bringing Spielberg up the stairs, and we were introduced to him, and we had a conversation about softball because we were just off over the park to play softball. So we had a 5-10 minute conversation with him about that and how things were going and just general, and it was on the stairs, and we were just, did that really happen? So in terms of creative conversations, it was just those 5 minutes on the stairs, which I will treasure forever. You do have to have an element of a layout pass, so you put a proxy in place on the live action plate and then you animate to that. Sometimes in live action, occasionally they will put a prop, even if it's just like a stick, for the actor to look at and react to, and they'll just be looking at that stick and then they'll comp that character in place. So they'll block the animation in to make sure that it matches to a live action actor and to make sure that all the eye lines are correct and the main parts of the animation are there. This was still in the days of pencil and paper. So what we were given in terms of matching our drawn animation to a 3D environment, the 3D environment was filmed, every single frame was scanned and put onto a sheet of paper ready for a peg bar. And so when I picked up a shot, and I would have a big, thick pile of paper, and I would have to match every single drawing to every single one of those so that it would actually scan in time with the 3D visual. So it was a learning process over that time, but it's something that made sure everything had to be very precise. It was a meticulous and at times quite painful process, but it seemed to work in the end, so that's good. But yes, it was a great learning process.
Oh, sorry.
You think she's got enough toys? Speaking of toys, you know all those mugs and t-shirts and lunchboxes with our pictures on them? Yeah? You ever see any money from all that stuff?
Not a cent.
Me neither.
It's a crying shame. We gotta get new agents. We're getting screwed.
massive amount of time traditional 2D animation takes. It's hugely labor intensive, and something that I'm working on now, we have CG dinosaurs. We have an average of about 10 or so shots. One animator can do all of that animation in 2 days. Clean, lit, comped into a shot, everything in 2 days. And when I was working on We're Back with 2D dinosaurs, that would have taken at least 3 people a couple of weeks, very, very easily. So really, it's just the labor intensive aspect of it. It's just a massive time saver.
Swing back the clock. Roll back the rock to the dawn of time and sing this song with me.
Oh, well, I've worked as an animator and director in both. As I mentioned before, really it's the time issue, but also with being a director of CG shows, because I've never animated in CG myself. So working in a CG environment as a director, you can explore the space. So if you have a good CG program with storyboards that then translates into the animation process, layout and animation, you can explore the space. So you can move your camera around, you can find fantastic angles for shots that you would never have found if you'd have just drawing, yeah, I think it's like this. But if you can move the camera as a director, if you've got that presented to you, and you say, oh, that's not quite right, I'm just gonna tilt the camera up. There you go, that shot, that's the one you want. So it gives you more flexibility. It allows you to be a lot more creative. You can find things that would not have initially been available to you, or not an option that you would have thought of. I'm finding the more that I work in CG, the more creativity I'm finding. And it's really sort of expanded my view of what's possible. It's not been completely lost, because there are studios such as Lupus. I think there will always be a market for the softer, more traditional looking 2D shows, because, as I mentioned before, they are really very, very labor intensive. So there's not a lot of shows that can actually spend the time and the money on getting something like this. 2D animation probably is not completely dying, but it's on its way down a slope. But there are still many, well, I know a lot of people over here and in the States who still work on 2D stuff. So it has got its place, but it's been really, in terms of the volume of animation that's out there, I would say it's 95% CG and a sparing 5% 2D, primarily because it's not creative side of it, it's just the economic side. They're the bigger film companies. You've got Disney, and that's like a worldwide brand, and people know that they have a particular set of values that they like to promote. So it's a huge part of our culture. And yeah, it's just sort of woven into what Western culture is, and all this, like the imagery, the music and the pictures, films are everywhere. It's just generally a very, very strong part of Western culture. But also with Disney, who I've had direct experience with trying to get some pilots done, I find that with the larger companies, they have a hierarchy of many different levels of executives that you have to get approval with. You have to keep bouncing it up. But with the smaller companies, you have a producer, maybe an exec producer, so you have to clear it with one, then another, and then you're fine. With the larger companies, there's just more middle management in the way, and everyone has to say something, and sometimes that can get in the way of the creative process. It's a lot more drawn out, and that's why films take so long, is because everyone has to chip in. But the smaller production companies, I find them a lot friendlier and easier to work with to get something done. In my experience, animation for adults is more fun for the people working on it because you can get away with a lot more. Because I've worked on preschool shows that are shown at like 6 in the morning when the tinies get up. I've directed shows that are on at 12 o'clock when the students are coming back from the pub. With the adult humour, you can tend to enjoy yourself a lot more. Preschool, the very tiny stuff can be quite restrictive. So it's really about the enjoyment of the animation teams working on it. Although both are fun. The higher up the age you go, the more fun you can have. Really, when I look at animation, it mostly, for what comes across my desk, is just, is it entertaining? Is it going to be good fun? Hopefully, it shouldn't insult anyone. Overall, there is just entertainment. Is it good? Is it funny? And I just try and make things enjoyable. Maybe I should feel that I give something back, but really it's just to entertain people as much as I can.
Would you stop that?
You don't want my hair?
Why on earth would I want your hair? Look, I was being chased, I saw a tower, I climbed it. End of story.
You're telling the truth?
Yes. All right, listen, I didn't want to have to do this, but you leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder. This is kind of an off day for me. This doesn't normally happen. Fine, I'll take you to see the lanterns.
Really? Oops.
You broke my smolder.
In terms of actual influence, I was given a feedback from a behavioral expert on a script that I've written. And they said, I'm sorry, it's very funny, but you just can't have that in there. So at all points, if we're putting out something that's going to be for any sort of broadcast at all, we have to be careful what we put in because of the bad influence it can have on children. So we do have to be very careful with that. The influence of children in a positive way is that sometimes they can learn a visual language that they can continue into appreciation of films, and it will fire their imagination. They'll say, okay, this animation is from this set of books. Then they'll go off and they'll read all those books. So hopefully influence in a good way will be inspiration. In the mainstream animated films, as I mentioned, Disney, they always promote sort of family values, resilience, believing in who you are. So they can give very, very positive messages. But in the less mainstream, you can have some very, very powerful political statements that are made, and they have their place. They definitely have their place. So it can be used to make a more powerful statement than just be sort of some sort of visual wallpaper that just sort of washes across someone's eye line. But for the most part, I think it's a very positive influence. Most broadcasters, most animation companies try to put a very, very positive message into their animation. If there is a message other than just entertainment, there's so much influence that you can have with whatever message you want to get across, hopefully not too extreme.
See, now wasn't that easy? All it takes is some confidence and a willingness to get started. And even though I'm not there, I'll guide you through this. I want to thank my very special assistant, my daughter Zuri, for helping me with today's vlog, like always. And remember, the road ahead might look rough, but you can make the journey with a little bit of work and a whole lot of love. Mwah.
In terms of keeping relevant, that's not been an issue for me because I've been in commercials and film and television, so I'm basically given an idea that someone has deemed this is relevant, this will sell. Relevant is for people who are more making their own programs. They're sort of driven by a project, like I must get this message out there. So for me, being basically a gun for hire, relevancy has not been an issue. I've just gone where the work is and done what I'm told. But getting started, I can imagine that it's quite a tough industry to get into right from the very start. It helps to know someone in the industry who can get you in, and then once you're in a studio, then you start to learn. So the relevancy is never something that's really on my radar, but getting started, it can be very tricky, yes. I wanted to become a director because I worked up to be animator, storyboard artist, and I thought, I think I can do this better. I just wanted to get my ideas out there, and I thought, I've got ideas. I'm sure I could twist this and make this better. So I wanted to sort of expand my creativity, because every element of my career so far has just been, I'm bored of this. I'm bored of in-betweening, then I'm bored of animating because I've done that. And now I'm bored of storyboarding because I've done that for a few years. And I think there's more creativity to be had with the opportunity of directing. And it's a rare thing to get that opportunity. So you really have to take it. And it's the creation of an entire vision of how you see something. So you get an idea, you get a script, and when I'm reading it, I can visualize how I want each shot to be played out. I know what the voices should be like. I know what the lighting should be. I know what the music is going to be. I know what the overall impact of this is going to be. So when I'm questioned about that all the way through, and people say, I'm not quite seeing it. I say, no, I haven't finished it yet. That's why. It's that element of tying in so many different strands of creativity, whether it's the drawn music, voice, everything, into making one complete story that has all the elements in it. And it's that variety that I love. It's so fulfilling. It really is. It ticks all my creative boxes. I haven't got any room for anything else. It's just that.
As the story took shape, it came time to cast the voices that would breathe personality into the toys. From the start, they had only one actor in mind for the voice of Woody.
What they did was they took a line from Turner and Hooch, which was a movie I'd made for Disney, and they actually did have a small piece of computer animation, which was Woody saying the line. And they had, Woody was just in hysterics. His little fists were like pounding all over the place. He dropped down to his knees and was pounding the ground. It was kind of amazing.
Oh, no, you're eating the car! Don't eat the car! Not the car! Oh, you stupid dog!
It fit. If I had come in and seen something that didn't make quite as much sense, I don't know if I'd be doing the movie, but I saw Woody and he talked like I did, so it all made perfect sense.
It was not an easy transition, because suddenly you had all these different elements and you had people relying on you to come up with an answer. So I had to make damn sure that I had everything clear in my mind so that I would have an answer for everything. So someone said, yeah, but what is this character going to do in this particular situation? So, okay, right, I know, I can act it out, I can tell you what the voice is going to be, I can give you that answer. So you're jumping about all over the place. Suddenly you have a lot of different disciplines, and to be able to speak with some kind of authority, because you have to be the one with that clarity of vision to see the whole thing. I'm seeing that end picture. You're seeing this shot, you're seeing that bit over there, you're seeing that piece of music, but I'm seeing the whole thing. So it's really knowing that you have to tie everything together, and to be able to come up with all the answers for anything that anyone asks you. That's been the main thing, is just make damn sure that I know what I'm talking about at all times, hopefully. I don't do anything else because I haven't got time, actually. But I don't miss animation, because I think that once I'd animated Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck for a feature film, I thought, okay, that I don't need to do any more as an animator. That's me done. That is my dream, and I've done it. I wasn't the best animator, because said before, there's always someone better than you. But you know, I got my stuff on film. It got superseded by the idea that I could create an entire story. As much as I can, I like to direct, because it's just more fun. Well, clearly, being a director is my favorite. I don't really miss anything from my previous jobs, because I bring an element of each of those things to my job as a director. And as a director, I like to have hands-on experience with the writing. One of the shows that I'm working on now, I'm writing the scripts. So there's my writing. I always try and get my voice on somewhere. So I'll do that. And also I like to be a voice director for my own shows. I'll have a hand in the storyboards. I like to give notes to the storyboard artists. So I don't have a chance to miss those, because everything that I've done in those jobs has brought me to this point. It's having a clarity of vision of what you want to do, what you have in your head, and you say, right, this is where we're going, and you have to make sure that everyone goes the same way, and not to waver. You can get in ideas, that's fine, as long as we're all going in this way. So if I'm taken on as a director, it's because I have a certain approach, and I make clear my approach right at the very start. If the execs are happy with how I see this, I just have to make sure that I stick with it, don't waver, take on good ideas, direct. Normally we have producer and a line producer, or 2 or 3. Producer gets everyone in with my input, but the day-to-day running is line producers basically lining stuff up and siphoning it off to the different teams. But then I do like to have as much personal contact with everyone as I can, even if I'm working with an overseas studio. So I had a company in Vancouver, an overseas animation studio. The best thing was going over there. It was in Vancouver, so it was a great thing going over there anyway. But to be able to speak directly to the animators. So I'm very wary of a production where you've got the director here, then you've got a supervisor there, then another one there, then another one there, and then the artist down here. There should be a direct line from the director to the artist and back, so that the person who's got that creative vision can get that through to the artist and say, this is how it should be, because otherwise it gets diluted, and that's never good. So I like to know that how I see something is getting through to the artist. But saying that, even the largest team, there should be room for anyone to have a good idea. So if anyone looks at this and goes, oh, I think I could make that better, I like to think that I'm open to all ideas. I like to be as collaborative as possible. So if someone says, what about doing it this way? And I'll say, okay, give it a try. And if it works, I'll say, great, okay, we'll do it your way. Everything is for the project. It's for the series or for the film. And if it improves it, it stays in. It's not an ego thing. It's not a power thing. I just like to create something and to steer everyone in the same direction. It can be very tricky with the larger teams, and you do have to have someone dealing with the larger regular issues on a daily basis. But I do like to be able to speak to everyone, and if someone does a good job, like if an animator does a good job, I will go over to them and I say, I love that shot you did. great job. And that's it. And at times, I know when I was an animator, if I was told that by the director, it would absolutely make my day. And you go, oh, so it does matter. I'm not just the tiny bit there. It really matters. And for me, working as the director in a team, I like everyone to be as happy with what they're producing. And there needs to be a good, happy atmosphere, because people are more creative when they're happier. It can be quite an intense subject matter, but if everyone is enjoying it, everyone feels that they're part of it, then everyone will have fun, and that will really reflect on screen. The hardest part of my job is split between two. It's always having to have an answer for everyone. If I'm convinced that what I'm doing is the right thing, then that's fine. Also, there not being enough time to do everything, because you're pulled in all sorts of different ways, and everything has to be done yesterday. So there's that. So there's a time element. And the best part is knowing that I'm working with some good people, because I know I certainly couldn't do it on my own. It's getting the best people that I know for the job in to help create the whole thing, because it's a massive team effort, and it's working with people who are at the very top of their game, who know what they're doing. I know I can rely on them to do things that I could never possibly do. I have to steer them. But it's one of the best parts of the job is seeing the work of other people, and it's really inspiring. You go, how did you do that? That's brilliant. I love it. It's gonna be so good because of that thing that you did just there. It's the act of creation that everyone brings to it, and it's knowing that we are all heading in that direction. And then the best part is knowing that what I saw in my head right at the very start is on screen. I do get a bit teary if everything has come together. You go, that's exactly what I saw in my head 2 years ago. Exactly.
What advice would you give young or aspiring animators?
Draw. Keep drawing, keep practicing. You can look at books, learn from people who you think are streets ahead of you. Learn to draw in different styles, learn to animate different characters. Push yourself all the time. Just be pushing, because you never know what you're going to get.
And is there any advice you can give to young or aspiring directors?
Yes, I would say try and have a good sort of visual language, so you know a range of shots. The approach of, I can get this emotion with this approach. Learn your timing, about good staging. Also try and understand as many of the disciplines that go into the project as you can. And also listen to people. Be nice to people and listen to what people say. They'll probably come up with something brilliant. Probably the most important lesson that I've learned is that you can always improve. There is always someone better than you, and you should learn from them. You shouldn't be intimidated, but you can be intimidated by them, but you can always improve something. So you should always strive to just keep improving all the time. I feel very lucky to have found animation, and it's great to have a career in something that you love doing. So if you can do that, it's fantastic. So I do feel very lucky.
tell you something, Boto. A dog cannot make this journey alone. But maybe a wolf can.
Okay, well that's all of my questions. So
Okay, super, lovely. It sounded a lot, but look, 1 hour precisely, brilliant. Well, that's been fantastic. No, there were some great questions, and yeah, sorry if I rambled a bit. I'm sorry about that.
no, it's good. I want as much content as I can get.
Oh, well, I've given you far too much. You can chop it right down now, can't you?
But thank you so much for agreeing to do this for me.
That's okay. No problem at all. Oh, and I've also done a little few seconds clip of my
thank you so much.
session. So I'll send that to you as well. See if that's useful. Yeah, have a good Christmas.
Have a good Christmas.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Okay, so here's my basic work setup at home, just in the spare room. So I've got my Wacom Cintiq here, with my trusty pen and my drawing glove, radio, always have a radio, and got my iMac here, powering everything. Got my notebook that's full, always have a cup of tea on the go, headphones for listening to stuff, PC for when I need other items to look up, and of course, most importantly, always have a cat with you.
What was the next bit? What was the other thing? What's the other bit of the question?